Greetings, friends and survivors. SHADOWFRAX here with your news, views, and everything relevant in Rust this week, including naval progress and the question of Linux. But first, to keep the team in that sweet spot between work and sanity, the shackles have currently been loosened a couple of notches and the shock collars removed, because this week is another Hackweek, which, if you don't know by now, is where the team are allowed a bit of me time to work on some projects they'd like to see in Rust, and it could be absolutely anything, as wild as they like. But it's usually only the most boring ones that actually ever get into the game. So let's have a butcher's at what sort of things are emerging from the Hackweek cave this time. And first of all, we have mannequin animations, which would see you being able to plug a mannequin into the grid and switch it to different poses. Perhaps quite handy for decoy purposes or whatever. Then we have an FPV or first-person view drone, which would have mouse-based pitch and roll and rotor tilt-like movement on shift and control for much greater maneuverability. And hands up, if you remember Rust's official Savas King of the Hill map that was killed off a while back. Well, a new branch called Super Savas has appeared with not a small number of commits under it. Details include each team having its own spawn beach, integration with the clan system, and data items that can be collected from loot and player corpses. Looks promising. Also, as a side note, Savas means DLC in Turkish. There's a proposed tech tree rework which would see 4 separate branches with their own tabs for weapons, attire, construction and utility. There's a slick ball arcade game, and I'm not sure exactly what form it would take, but would have a game board with a sunken submarine backlit lights prefab and several balls per game, so could be themed to be part of the floating city casino section and might be like a cross between pinball and marble madness or something, not quite sure. There's a ball pit branch because the game's literally been broken for how long without one, and of course curtains, because curtains. Actually, that might be quite useful. Anyway, apart from that, there are a few back-end type branches with stuff that would make development easier, a better workshop scene with a special spawn point per skinnable and shutter animations, and a proposed rework to the F1 console UI, which among other things would allow for favoriting of items, a better layout, an equip button for wearable items, a command tab for useful and common commands, and better autocomplete. Let me know if any of these float your boat. Talking of which, the naval update, which we're expecting in December now, is still chugging along with plenty of work to player boats, including wakes, and support for electricity on boats, with players being able to place neon signs. There's also work on naval missions and a new naval scientist variation. There have been a bunch of fixes and changes made over the last week, and to run you through the most thrilling of these, there's a fix for unpowered fridges in the Arctic biome not cooling food, and one for items in sub-inventories like backpacks, fishing rods, etc. not calculating biome temperature correctly. There's a fix for HBHF sensors being able to be deployed through constructions, and another that stops the cargo ship from being able to go through the oil rig when leaving the map, because nobody needs to see that. In changes, tactical gloves are now skinnable on the staging branch, and speaking of which, the team are eager to know which DLC opportunities they can exploit next. I mean, which new deployable building skins you'd like to see in game, and I'll give a link to the post so you can fill in the survey yourself. There's work to update Rust to a new version of Unity, a new apply genes admin commands being added, not to put on a pair of trousers, but to apply a given gene sequence to a clone or seed in your hands. The new building planner world models in the works, and improvements to the fill water admin command, which will clear old contents before refilling, fill up buckets if equipped, and deployed items being looked at. Now, I'd just like to mention something that's been buzzing over on that bouncy castle of despair known as Reddit this week, because I think it's relevant and it's something I've been wondering myself, and that is the question of Rust on Linux. Now, those of you old enough will remember that Rust did indeed used to have a native Linux client, but in 2019, Facepunch announced they'd stop shipping it because of all the extra work involved in maintaining it and easy anti-cheat, etc., for what would be a minority player base and thus not really worth the candle. Times have moved on, however, and I think prompted by the current uptick in people switching to Linux rather than having their machines infected with Windows 11, the question is being asked again. Unfortunately, the answer remains the same, as outlined when Alistair replied to the latest thread about it a couple of days ago, and I'll put a link to this also in the description. The main reason for the objection is cheat related, as this was a big issue on the Linux side, and there's a numbers game involved too. However, I'm wondering what the future holds and whether one day this could be subject to change, as not only does Linux seem to be gaining more traction, but this week's reveal of the new Steam hardware could have a bearing. Both the Steam Deck and the upcoming Steam machine run SteamOS, which is Linux based, and as things stand cannot play the native Rust version on EAC enabled servers. But What if the Steam machine takes off next year when it launches? What if budget-conscious players adopt it large scale, depending on what the prices are when announced? I'm not saying stances would change overnight, but I'm interested in trends. So what do you think might happen long term? And do you even care? Let me know in the comments, please. In other news, as mentioned last week, drops have now kicked off on Kick for the first time, and these will be running until the 23rd. And as mentioned before, some new stuff is being worked on, such as an artist DLC pack with paintball guns, easels and various painting options, and a boxes DLC with various themed large storage boxes with custom meshes. Oh yes, and a space station themed top tier building skin, and I'll bring you a show and tell of these as soon as I get my hooves on them. Right, you seem to be up to date now, so please leave a like and a sub if you enjoyed the vid. Check out my socials and my Steam group, and you can support the channel here with YouTube memberships, super thanks, and my Patreon. I shall catch you all later, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio. Hackweek.